This week on Divine, we look ahead to Mother's Day.
Motherhood and the divine feminine in all its forms will be talked about, dissected and discussed in this very special episode.
From sexuality to childbirth to raising our children, we look at what it means to be a woman and a mother in the modern world.
Welcome to Divine with Leilani Dowding
and Leanne Brown.
This week on Divine, we're celebrating Mother's Day.
Our guest tonight will be talking about the divine feminine in all its forms.
We talked to two women who use alternative birthing techniques to help women become mothers in the most relaxed way possible.
And we speak to two more women who've rejected society's expectation models of femininity and womanhood and who've created the lifestyles they want. Motherhood and femininity are often thought to be the same thing, but with the rise of social media and the growing emphasis on appearance, what does femininity mean in our modern culture?
Well, our next guest tonight has produced an exclusive series here at Ickonic, examining the toxic culture surrounding women's appearances.
In her series, Dying to be Beautiful, Diane Kaiser documents her struggle with breast implant illness, which is increasing around the world.
Author of the book Killer Breasts, the self-styled explant warrior had her implants removed and has been through many health struggles.
She now teaches other women the importance of detoxing the mind and body and having systems in place to help heal your body and unlock its innate intelligence.
She's a passionate advocate for women's health and says she wants women to be their own best healer and transform their lives from the inside out. Diane, welcome to Divine. Now, you've had breast implant illness. Can you just tell us about that?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, ladies. You know, what I would start by saying is I had breast implant illness and. So I like to start by saying it was breast implants that were maybe the straw that, I don't like breaking camel's backs because it sounds pretty aggressive, but it was a straw that hurt the camel in the end. And I like to describe it as we're just this big bucket, or I call it a goddess glass. And we're surrounded by toxins that we talk about so much in Ickonic, and I talk about in my book and my docuseries, that it's not just breast implants. We have so many other beauty toxins like Botox, and we can talk about that too. So it was a conglomeration of all of these beauty toxins and the bully within my mind that eventually sent me over the edge. So I always like to start with that because my breast implants were a big alarm for me, and thank God and thank Goddess that I got these implants because they woke me up. So I always like to start with gratitude and also saying to the women out there, this is not about shame. This is about our own awakening journey, and I'm grateful that I did these things. So I wasn't angry at myself. Breast implant illness there's never really been a doctor or a scientific study out there that was actually done to completion. And I will talk about some of that today. That was one that was actually buried with 100,000 women. And they didn't want us to know that these breast implants or any other medical devices for that matter, or beauty toxins, because it's such a big industry, that they impact us to the degree that they do. And so now with me, when I went through what I did, I had breast implants for 10 years. I got them because I was a bikini competitor and there was some pressure there. And we all have our own story of pressure, but for me, that was my pressure because I was very, very little, very small breasts when I was 10% body fat. And again, there's a lot of moms who have their own different journey of breasts were sagging, so were mine. And the moment I got them is when I started getting very ill. And the things that I experienced for my own illness was autoimmune disease. I had Hashimoto's, and that's a disease of the thyroid. Many doctors were not, and still are in medicine, looking at and pointing implants or any other beauty toxins as a potential root. So I had autoimmune disease. I felt like every time I was exercising, it was just merely to keep the fires out, but I was never going after the arsonist that was lighting the fires. So I was, what I like to say is managing Mation, but I wasn't getting anywhere closer to my ideal of perfect health. And this is where a lot of women come to me. They say, I'm doing all of these things. I'm doing all the right things. I'm doing the juicing. I'm doing the exercise. I'm doing the yoga. I'm doing the detox. And it isn't always in the right order, but these breast implants, what they did for me and what I noticed in many of the work with, is they block the lymph, our bile ducts, and not leave the, because these things are right over our chest cavity, right over our heart, where there's about 15% of detox that happens, and no wonder why we have a lot of cancer happening. So it was a miserable last couple of years before I got them out.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that they taught me what they did.
Yeah, I myself have had my implants removed as well, and I had them for, I had my first implants when I was 21 and had them changed when I was 26 because it decapsulated, and it was the last couple of years really that I was discovering that I had all these different symptoms, and I was going to have them replaced, and then it was actually divine intervention, like you're saying yourself, you're grateful for it, and I got a DM on Instagram about it, breast implant illness, and then related them to these symptoms, and yeah, lo and behold, I had them removed, and then it was incredible. You know how much better I felt. The detoxification is real, isn't it? It's really
yeah.
amazing. Well,
I'm so glad that you went through that, sister. Yay!
Yeah.
Congratulations. Because a lot of women have a hard time detoxing their mind of us needing to have them to be beautiful. So it almost that needs to be step one, is to reprogram the mind as to what the true definition of beauty is, and that our significant other won't abandon us if we take them out.
So you mentioned that you had yours because you were doing bikini modeling, you had a really fine build. Why do you think, what other reasons do you think other women might be getting them, and why do they feel that they need to have bigger breasts? I was a glamour model, but luckily I was fine with my little A and B cups. But why do you think that other women are feeling this pressure to have them in the first place?
Good question. So, I mean, that is the deepest root, right? That is the deepest root, is that this is not an innate need that we come out of the womb or even at the age of 13 or 18 and just say, I want breast implants out of nowhere. This is years, decades of programming. And you just mentioned that you didn't feel the pressure to get any because you were comfortable with your A cup or B cup. And I would say that I grew up in California. I live in Sedona, Arizona now. But California, I mean, you're in the UK, it's much different there. Every country is a bit different. But California is the hub of toxic beauty. I mean, Hollywood, Beverly Hills,
Baywatch.
Los Angeles.
Baywatch at the time, right? And Pamela Anderson and...
Yes, and it's so funny that you say that. There was a woman that when I was 18 years old, I just went to college, and I was watching her on a soap opera, and she was my favorite actress. And fast forward 30 years later, or 20 years later, she ended up coming to me for support on getting hers out. I was like, wow. This is such an interesting full circle, right? Is it one of the few women on TV who I idolized and probably had a big seed plant, because I call it weed planting. These are a lot of our programming. They're planting weeds in our mind that grow into these big diseased branches that just choke our natural beauty or our perception of God's given natural beauty. And we forget about our own unique beauty and go into this, here's who I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to fit this mold. And then of course, women who are mothers. I mean, I'm not a mother, so I can't say this with empathy, but I work with thousands of women from all around the world. They see their breasts sagging. They've got the belly sag after having babies, and they look back and there's some regret going through what they do. So it's about the restoration of the body. I want to look how I looked before I had a baby, but we so forget about the beauty of what it takes to deliver a child, and that we earn these scars, we earn this sagging. So it's just years of programming. Barbie, I mean, you name it. You can keep going on and on. The Kardashians, it's social media. Pressure's real. And then women.
Just going to ask you about the social media and the impact that you feel it has on the perception that we have to look. This perfect female form has to include having big breasts. Do you think there's a perception of that's what most men prefer in women?
Oh, I love that you asked that question, because when I went into this, I felt really good about myself and my body, and I was open to looking deeper into, okay, how will this impact men? And really, it's not about men or our significant other. It's about the root of how will I get my needs met? How will I feel attention? I mean, there's a deep sense, and this is instinctual in us, is if we're abandoned from a tribe, if we think about, primally, then we don't have anybody. We're alone and we're afraid of that. So when I actually started polling a lot of these men after I got through my hump of the guy that I was with at the time, he really did like breast implants. So I had this conversation with him. It was like, well, here we are, and this is my new boundary. I need to get these out because I'm very sick. I saw my infrared. I did a lot of different types of scans, and I had infrared heat all around my breasts. They were clearly blocked, and it became like I'm in SOS mode. So I had to, I'm air quoting that, I had to for my own health. My immune system was shot. The labs that I run on patients in my practice, far beyond blood, were indicating that my immune system was shot. So it became, you know what? I care more about my health than I care about what a man thinks of me. So I was surprised when I was I had a lot of conviction about I'm getting these out. That degree of confidence is what a real partner is looking for. That degree of, I love me for who I am, and I don't need to shower you with compliments. You're not extremely needy. You are a woman that shines on her own. You're a woman that's unapologetically confident, happy, beautiful, joyful, leading her mission, smiling even through the shadows, even through the tough times. These are what real men are looking for. So I will say that the toxic men and the men who are also programmed, and you can easily know who they are. And I'll dare say that if there's a man who won't keep you around because you are getting your implants out, they're not a real man. They're a programmed man. Yeah. So that's really, it's really quite simple. If a man supports you because he wants you to have your greatest health and is concerned about your the illnesses that you might have, the symptoms, and he hates seeing you suffering, that's a real man. But if a man wants you to suffer through these symptoms so that he can enjoy the silicone and saline toxicity in your body, that is not a real man. You're in a prison. And it's also time for us to own how we got there as women, to say, okay, this is not my doing. I've been put in a prison. Who did this to me? And how can I get myself out? And that's the beautiful joy and the path and the journey to freedom that I'm sure that you feel as well by having your implants out. It's like the story got pulled out, and then with that, the silicone and the saline left.
Definitely. Do you think there's more women turning to more of a natural look now?
Yes. And this is what I'm so excited about. Sometimes you're on the internet and you're sharing all this stuff and you write a book and you make a docuseries with Ickonic and you're like, I have no idea who this is reaching. And I always love to hear from people on how what we're sharing here how they touched their heart. So it's taken a while. And what I've noticed is that, I work with a lot of celebrities who are also known to have these big implants in movies and shows. And they're in one of the bigger prisons, right? Because they think that they make their money from having big breasts, but it's the energy, it's the frequency, it's the confidence, it's the light, right? So it's taken, I would say, 2 really good years that I've noticed since I wrote the book, and then Ickonic, our series, came out a year and something ago. And I'm starting to see it now, that women are absolutely loving and super surprised at how much they love their new body after they get their implants out. It's like this new sense of freedom that you can't really explain to somebody until they get them out. So it's like this unknown, and people have fear of the unknown or fear of going under the knife. But it's so funny, isn't it, that there wasn't fear of going under the knife to get them, but there's a lot of fear of going under the knife to get them out. So I'm like, is it really the fear of going under the knife, or is it fear of who you're going to be and who you think you are and what you're going to look like after your explant?
One of the reasons this show is called Divine is because of the rise of the divine feminine that we hear a lot about. Do you think there's a shift towards that energy? I mean, you've spoken a lot about energy. Do you think it's that kind of divine feminine energy?
Yes. If we look at, there's divine energy can be toxic also, right? Or it could be very sacred. So I fully believe, and this is what I wrote in my book, and this is what I talked about on our docuseries, the toxic, not divine, feminine is to follow these toxic glyphosate-filled GMO breadcrumbs that bring us to this, here's the prison, go put yourself in it. Okay, now go get breast implants. go get Botox, which is the single most toxic substance known to man that was used in the Gulf War to kill people. And people can't make that connection because all they are thinking is I need to look a certain way. And that's the prison. That's the toxic beauty prison. The divine says, I came out whole and perfect and beautiful. And what is in here is my divinity. What is in here is what helps me shine. And it helps other women illuminate the same and step up with me. And I've actually embodied that and I've seen that. And I'm not saying I wasn't afraid to go through this process and this journey because I had 11s on my eyebrows. I started to notice that I had some frown lines and some of the crow's feet around my eyes and my neck starting to sag. There are so many things that we can do naturally to preserve our aging so that we're not, mentally I believe that we're afraid of aging because that's programs too. So we have to think about and question all the programs first. Like what are the tethers that are attached to our hands where we're the marionette to this matrix of you need to look a certain way and if you're not, then you're not enough. So it's really, it takes time to sit down with that and go, what makes me a true divine feminine? And the thing that does not is not enough mindset.
But it is lovely to see somebody else whose face moves and has expression, you know. We've lost a lot of that, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, this is a Mother's Day special, so we have to ask you the question: what does motherhood mean to you?
Oh, you guys are gonna make me cry. Well, I'm not a mom right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a couple of things that come up. No, it's okay. This is real. This is divine. It's just feel what comes up. And I think there's beauty in these tears because it's healing and we're doing it in sisterhood. And I didn't expect this. So right now I'm on the other side 2.5 years. I've had my implants out and I have a lot of fibroids on my ovaries right now. I have a growth happening on my thyroid. And these are things that are very common in women who get breast implants. A lot of growths happen, fibroids, cysts, tumors, they can't lose weight. All of the, breast implants are xenoestrogen, so they look like estrogen to the body. So estrogen grows things, they grow things that we don't want. And so I don't know if I can have children at this point. That's one thing. The second thing is that what really came up for me is that getting through a mother wound when I went through this process, which I wasn't expecting. I believe that we all as women have a mother wound, which is in some cases not being enough for our mother or trying to compete with our mother. And these are all subconscious. They don't make any sense. But I remember I called it my toxic tits going away party. And I had this in Orange County the night before my surgery. And I invited all of my friends. And of course, there was probably about 25% of the room that had breast implants because I was in Orange County, California. And I remember looking over at my mom and saying, I'm so sorry, Mom, that I thought that my body wasn't perfect the way that you made me. And I thought I needed these things and I went against your values. So there was a big part of me that has been working with my mother on healing from this since then, because I also felt when I got them, she did not judge me. She still loved me and she still does. And she was there for me when I got them out, but I hid them from her when I put them in. So when we're hiding from anything, there's a shame wound there. And so there's a huge shame wound right behind my breast implants, right over my heart, that said that I needed to change and alter the DNA that was given to me. It was gifted to me by my mother and my father and through God. And I was not grateful for that. And I was still, I guess, working through that. So motherhood is also showing your children, showing your daughters, so showing your son what true beauty is. And I hear this from moms all the time, if you're a woman that has breast implants or you're doing a lot of things to, air quotes, artificially improve your beauty, you're showing the next generation, you're showing your daughter that she's not enough how she is. And so that's another beautiful invitation for all of us to come together and say, we're done with this matrix. We are done with this programming that we need to constantly build our beauty. Yeah. And so it's there's a lot I have to say, but it's
so powerful.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah. Here. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you cry, but thank you so much.
Oh, don't apologize.
Diane. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
It's such a pleasure speaking to you.
I can't wait to watch your show.
Yeah.
Can't wait to watch your
Thank
show.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, ladies.